Before we begin, I would like to shout out the same anonymous user for submitting this suggestion in the Google form. The year is 1370, and Timur has captured Balkh. Following the surrender and assassination of Amir Hussein, Timur proclaimed himself Amir, marking the beginning of the Timurid Empire, which lasted for over a century. Let's get straight into it. To understand the rise of the Timurid Empire, we need to look at two states, the Ilkhanate and the Chagatai Khanate. For context, both states were established by the Mongol Empire in the 13th century. After the collapse of the Mongol Empire, they assimilated into the local cultures. Now, by the mid 14th century, both empires were on the decline. In the 1330s, the Black Death arrived in Persia and quickly ravaged the Ilkhanate, killing both Ilkhan Abu Sa'id and his sons, causing the Ilkhanate to fracture. Meanwhile, the Chagatai Khanate was also struggling. A year before, Chagatai Khan Tarmashirin was assassinated, and from then on, the Chagatai Khanate began its decline. Power began shifting from the Khan to regional warlords. In 1347, the Chagatai Khanate split into two, the Western Chagatai Khanate and the Eastern Chagatai Khanate, also known as Mogolistan. It was around this time, in 1336, that Timur was born among the Barlas tribe near Kesh, southwest of Samarkand. As a child, he often raided other tribes for animals, like sheep, horses, and cattle. It was around this time that he was famously shot in the leg and arm by an arrow, which permanently disabled him. His opponents mocked him for this, giving him the nickname Timur the Lame, which serves as the basis for his western nickname Tamerlane. By 1360, Timur gained a reputation for being a military leader. Also in 1360, the Khan of Mogolistan, Tughluq Timur, invaded the western Chagatai Khanate. Timur was sent to negotiate with them, but he defected to Tughluq, and after his conquest of the western Chagatai Khanate, Tughluq appointed Timur as the governor of Transoxiana. He ruled for 3 years until he was replaced by Tughluq's son, Ilyas Khoja. Timur allied with Amir Hussein, and together they defeated Khoja and kicked him out of Transoxiana. In 1365, Khoja returned to Transoxiana, and the combined forces of Timur and Amir Hussein marched to Tashkent. Unfortunately for them, Khoja's army arrived and defeated them. From here, he besieged Samarkand. However, the city refused to surrender, forcing Khoja to withdraw. Soon after this, Timur and Hussein's relationship strained, as Hussein became increasingly autocratic and alienated both Timur and the nobility. Thus, in 1370, Timur besieged Hussein's capital of Balkh. This was a success, and Hussein was captured and executed. Timur now controlled large swaths of Transoxiana, but he needed one thing: legitimacy. Timur couldn't claim the title of Khan because he was not a descendant of Genghis Khan. Thus, he appointed Soyer Gatmish as a puppet Khan and took the title Amir. This marked the birth of the Timurid Empire. Timur would spend the next 35 years of his reign waging wars of conquest. In 1371, Timur laid claim to the territories of Khiva and Kaf, which were under the control of the Sufi dynasty in Khwarezm. He attacked Khwarezm in 1373, and its ruler, Yusuf Sufi, surrendered to him, offering him both the disputed territories and his daughter to Timur's son, Jahangir. Now, despite this, Yusuf Sufi would continue to attack Timur's lands. In response, Timur besieged Urgench in 1379. Yusuf Sufi died in the middle of the siege, and after 3 months, the Timurids captured the city. A general massacre followed, and the city was burned down. After consolidating his control over Transoxiana, Timur turned south towards Persia, invading Khorasan in 1381. His first target was Herat, which is the capital of the Kartids. Timur arrived before the city in April of 1381, and after a 4-day siege, he took control of the city, dismantled the city's walls, and seized the city's treasures. From here, he took control of the rest of Khorasan, capturing cities like Nishapur, Mashhad, Tus, and Sabzawar. He invaded the rest of Persia in 1383, subjugating the Mirabanids to the south and capturing numerous important cities in the west, notably Rey, Qom, and Yazd. However, the most significant event of this campaign happened in 1387. You see, the city of Isfahan initially surrendered to the Timurids. Shortly after this, however, they revolted. Timur responded to this with overwhelming force, as after retaking the city, he ordered a brutal punishment, ordering a massacre with an estimated death toll between 70,000 and 200,000 people. Nevertheless, by the end of the year, the Timurids had consolidated their control over central Persia. In 1392, Timur launched a large-scale invasion of the Muzaffarids in southern Persia. Now, the Muzaffarid ruler Shah Mansour chose to confront Timur in open battle, hoping that a decisive victory could preserve his independence. However, the Timurids defeated him at the Battle of Shiraz, capturing and decapitating the Shah. By 1393, the Timurids had conquered southern Persia. With the conquest of southern Persia, Timur moved west. Western Persia was under the control of the Jalayirid Sultanate. In 1393, he captured the Jalayirid capital of Baghdad, forcing his Sultan, Ahmad Jalayir, to flee. He went to the Mamluk Sultanate, and the next year, they marched into Baghdad and recaptured the city. The Timurids would return him to Baghdad in 1401, besieging the city. After 40 days of resistance, the Timurids captured the city. The Timurid army looted the treasury and razed much of the city, except for the mosques and madrasas. Only 1 out of 100 of the city's inhabitants reportedly survived the massacre, only to be sold into slavery. Now, while Timur was campaigning in Persia, he also turned his eyes north to the Caucasus, which is under the control of the Kingdom of Georgia. In 1386, he besieged and captured Georgia's capital of Tbilisi. During the siege, he captured King Bagrat IV and his family, whom he forcibly converted to Islam. Between 1387 and 1394, Timur periodically raided Georgia. Timur's final invasion of Georgia began in 1399, when he defeated them at the Battle of Alinja. He finally gained the submission of the Georgia in 1403 after the siege of Birtvisi. Now, what I haven't mentioned yet is that between 1385 and 1395, while Timur was campaigning across Persia and the Caucasus, he was simultaneously engaged in war against Toktamish, the Khan of the Golden Horde. For some context, after the death of Johnny Beg in 1357, the Golden Horde entered a prolonged civil war known as the Great Troubles. One of the claimants to the throne was Toktamish, who, in 1376, arrived in Timur's court after fleeing Uruz Khan. Timur supported Toktamish with troops and resources, and in 1381, Toktamish united the Golden Horde under his rule. Now, beginning around 1385, Toktamish began raiding Timur's territories in northwestern Persia, beginning the Toktamish-Timur War. Timur invaded the Golden Horde in February 1391, and on June 18, 1391, defeated Toktamish at the Battle of the Kundurcha River. Toktamish resumed his raids in 1395, and in response, Timur once again invaded. On April 14, 1395, Timur defeated Toktamish at the Battle of the Terek River. From here, he besieged Astrakhan and Sarai. This marked the end of the war. From here, Timur turned his attention east to the Delhi Sultanate. By this point, it had severely declined, and so, in 1398, Timur invaded. He swiftly besieged and destroyed Multan, and soon moved on to Delhi. After a 3-day siege, the city fell to the Timurids. Soon afterward, violence broke out in the city, and Timur ordered harsh reprisals, subjecting the city to widespread looting and destruction. Timur refocused his attention west and invaded the Mamluk Sultanate in 1400. Between October and November of 1400, he besieged Aleppo. Once he captured the city, he ordered extensive destruction and massacres within the city. From here, he moved south to Damascus, which, between December 1400 and March of 1401, was besieged by Timurid forces. After capturing the city, he damaged and looted it and relocated numerous artisans, architects, metalworkers, and scholars to Samarkand. For years, Timur and the Ottoman Sultan, Bayezid I, had been exchanging insulting letters with each other. In fact, in one of these letters to the Sultan, Timur famously stated, "Believe me, you are but pismire ant. Don't seek to fight the elephant, for they'll crush you under their feet. Shall a petty prince such as you contend with us? But your Rhodomantades are not extraordinary, for a Turkoman never spake with judgment. If you don't follow our counsels, you will regret it." Finally, Timur invaded Anatolia, and at the Battle of Ankara, he scored a major victory against the Ottoman Empire, capturing Bayezid I. He would spend the remainder of his life in Timurid captivity, where he would die on March 8, 1403. His death triggered the Ottoman interregnum. Meanwhile, in December 1402, Timur besieged and captured Smyrna from the Knights Hospitallers. In December 1404, Timur marched east to China in an attempt to conquer the Ming dynasty. However, he became ill while on the march east and died on either February 17th or 18th of 1405. Before his death, Timur had chosen his grandson, Pir Muhammad, as his heir. However, immediately upon his death, many local emirs tried to claim the empire for themselves. However, the two most important claimants were Khalil Sultan and Shah Rukh. Khalil declared himself emperor and based his power around Samarkand. However, due to a series of factors, his power began to decline, and in 1409, Shah Rukh marched into Samarkand, appointing his son Ulugh Beg as governor of Transoxiana and declaring himself emperor. Shah Rukh became the emperor in 1409. To consolidate his authority, he reasserted control over rebellious governors, restored Timurid control in Persia and Khorasan, maintained alliances with regional rulers, and strengthened the central administration by appointing experienced Persian bureaucrats. Throughout his reign, he preserved many Turco-Mongol military traditions while adopting Persian administrative practices. His administration relied heavily on Persian officials who oversaw tax collection, provincial administration, judicial affairs, and diplomatic relations. His reign wasn't all peaceful, though. After the death of Kara Yusuf in 1420, Timurid forces briefly occupied the Karakoyunlu capital of Tabriz before marching back to Herat with some of the city's artists and calligraphers. In 1429, Timurid forces invaded the Karakoyunlu, temporarily re-establishing control over Azerbaijan before withdrawing. The Timurids would invade one last time in 1434, this time installing Jahan Shah as the Sultan of Karakoyunlu. Now, throughout Timur's conquests across Eurasia, he brought over enormous wealth, skilled artisans, architects, and scholars to Timurid cities, primarily Samarkand and Herat. However, under Shah Rukh, this wealth and brainpower were redirected towards scholarship, architecture, and the arts rather than conquest. Timurid architecture was defined by massive turquoise and blue-tiled domes, monumental irwans, intricate geometric tilework, elegant Persian calligraphy, and symmetrical layouts. Some of the most famous Timurid monuments include the Guri Amir, the Bibi Khanim Mosque, the Ulugh Beg Madrasa, and the Gauhar Shad Mosque. Timurid art saw the golden age of Persian miniature painting as artists developed richly detailed illustrations, realistic landscapes, and expressive human figures, all with dynamic color palettes. One of the greatest artists, Kamal ud-Din Bejar, revolutionized Persian manuscript illustration and influenced Islamic art for centuries. Under Timurid patronage, Persian literature flourished. Important writers included Jami, who is considered one of the greatest Persian poets, and Ali Shir Nuvai, who elevated the Chagatai-Turkic language into a major literary language. Throughout the Timurid Renaissance, numerous historians, philosophers, and theologians were supported by the royal court. Finally, under the oversight of Ulugh Beg, scientific research reached its peak. His greatest achievement was the construction of the Ulugh Beg Observatory in the 1420s. Working with leading astronomers, Ulugh Beg produced one of the most accurate star catalogs before the invention of the telescope, calculated the length of the solar year with remarkable precision, advanced mathematics and trigonometry, and supported scientific education throughout Central Asia. For centuries, his Ziji Sultani remained an important reference for astronomers. Shah Rukh died on March 13, 1447, and was succeeded by his son, Ulugh Beg. Ulugh Beg became the emperor in 1447. Soon after this, his nephews revolted against him, so he marched in bulk. The next year, he defeated another one of his nephews at the Battle of Tarnab and captured Herat. However, between 1448 and 1449, another one of his nephews invaded Khorasan, and Ulugh Beg was removed from the region. Soon after this, his son, Abdul Latif Mirza, revolted against him. He defeated his father's forces, and in October 1449, Ulugh Beg surrendered to his son. Abdul Latif Mirza became the Sultan on October 27, 1449. However, his reign lasted only 6 months before he was assassinated on May 9, 1450. He was succeeded by his cousin, Abdullah Mirza, who ruled until June 1451, when he was defeated and executed by Abu Sa'id Mirza. Soon after seizing power, he began consolidating his control over Transoxiana. In 1454, the Timurid ruler of Herat, Abul Qasim Babur, briefly attacked Samarkand before signing a truce with Abu Sa'id. This truce lasted until the death of Abul Qasim Babur in 1457. This created a power vacuum that allowed Abu Sa'id to invade Khorasan and reunify the Timurid Empire. In 1458, he entered Herat and took control of the city. Resistance from rival Timurid princes forced him to withdraw temporarily before he permanently secured Herat and much of the empire in 1459, ending the Second Timurid War of Succession. Abu Sa'id Mirza became the emperor in 1459. Just like Shahrukh, he wanted to stabilize the Timurid Empire. To do so, he strengthened the central government, reappointed loyal governors, revived the overland trade routes, and relied on experienced Persian administrators to govern the empire. Throughout the 1460s, he successfully suppressed rival Timurid princes and maintained control over Central Asia, Khorasan, and Eastern Persia. In 1467, Jahan Shah was killed by Uzun Hasan, the Sultan of Ak Koyunlu, who conquered the Kara Koyunlu. This was a problem for the Timurids as they were allied with the Kara Koyunlu. Thus, in February 1468, Abu Sa'id invaded the Ak Koyunlu. Uzun Hasan avoided facing Timurid forces head-on, instead opting to harass Timurid supply lines, destroy local resources, and avoid large engagements while still drawing the Timurid army deeper into hostile territory. As winter approached, the Timurid army encountered severe logistical problems and began to weaken. Eventually, Abu Sa'id was forced to retreat. In the winter of 1469, the Ak Koyunlu attacked, defeating and capturing Abu Sa'id at the Battle of Karabagh on February 4, 1469. Abu Sa'id was ultimately executed on February 8, 1469. With this, the Timurid Empire broke off into separate kingdoms. Following Abu Sa'id's death, several Timurid princes claimed parts of the empire. The main claimants were Sultan Ahmad Mirza, Sultan Mahmud Mirza, Umar Shaikh Mirza II, and Hussein Baikara, who claimed Khorasan. Taking advantage of the political confusion, Hussein Baikara marched into Herat and captured the city on March 24, 1469. The fighting died down by 1470. Unlike the last two wars of succession, the Timurid Empire was still permanently divided. For the sake of this video, I will focus on Timurid Herat. Hussein Baikara became the Emir on March 24, 1469. He brought stability to Khorasan and kept Herat as the center of the Timurid Renaissance. He was regarded as a just and peace-loving ruler who sponsored major building projects, particularly a madrasa and a mausoleum in the Musalla complex, and improved the Great Mosque of Herat. His rule was repeatedly challenged by revolts, particularly those involving his sons and rival Timurid princes, but he managed to suppress these uprisings and temporarily restore stability. He also promoted Sharia law by banning wine consumption and the shaving of beards. Despite all of these, his reign was increasingly threatened by the expanding Uzbeks under Muhammad Shaybani, who, in 1501, conquered Transoxiana and threatened Khorasan. From here, they began raiding Khorasan, and in 1506, Hussein Baikara marched against the Uzbeks. This would amount to nothing, as he died just after beginning his advance. Finally, Khorasan, under the leadership of Badi al-Zaman Mirza, was conquered by the Uzbeks in 1507. The fall of Herat is considered to be the end of the Timurid Empire. So, in conclusion, the Timurid Empire marked an important era of Middle Eastern history. Timur's violent expansion across much of Persia, Transoxiana, and India laid the foundation for both one of the greatest empires in history and a cultural renaissance across the Middle East. However, their legacy is best seen in Babur, the Timurid ruler of Kabul, whose invasion of India led to the beginning of the Mughal Empire.